All right, what's going on, you guys? We've got the rest of this earnings. We've got Apple, Amazon, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, Reddit, Riot, even Roku coming up today. So I wanted to do, I know we're a little bit late on stream, but we're still here. Gonna go over and double check, see what's going on today with the closing bell. Let me pull up my trading view. Give me 1 second. And we'll also keep an eye on stacks to see if there's anything that pops up. I did just do a couple of these write-ups on our Discord. You should have gotten those if you are in our Discord or in our stack software. Be sure to check them out. Max had the write-ups for the articles and his analysis done pretty early. I just got those charts and what today's prints on stacks look like. So with that being said, we've got Apple, we've got Amazon. Apple's kind of lagging behind the rest of big tech. It's only up about 20 something percent, 23% since the tariff lows, since we had that scare. Amazon is kind of in this rising wedge pattern. It's inside of a larger channel that is expanding. So we'll see. There is a little bit of a downside possibility to this, but you know, as always, a lot of these bigger names tend to beat earnings, or at least recently have been beating earnings. Amazon is up about 40, almost 50% since those tariff lows. MicroStrategy, I still got my little drawing here. It's just consolidated after the pop, so we'll see if this continues to go up. This very likely, or let me adjust it, is more like this now. So I still think that we could see higher. Doesn't necessarily have to happen during this earnings, but there are, you know, if we continue to see Bitcoin head higher, again, it is in this bit of a flag pattern that we see. So we could see this pop up higher pretty soon. If anything, this would probably be where the lows would be of Bitcoin. Bitcoin probably could come back down toward 111, but I don't see it necessarily breaking completely down past there right now. So we've got about 10 minutes. Let's also pull up stacks, or let me just give it to you guys in terms of what I wrote in the Discord. If you guys are here watching, give me a comment, stacks. That way I know you're here. We've got Apple, okay. Apple and Amazon report today. Do they ride along with what Meta and Microsoft? We saw Meta and Microsoft both pop up pretty much, you know, quite a bit higher. Meta's pretty strong. Microsoft kind of sold off about halfway back, maybe a little bit more since the top. So we saw a big sell-off right at open. Carvana popped like crazy as well, went up higher, and it's kind of back where in that you know, the after hours highs, you might imagine. We'll see if it continues to break back down, but it did run up past 400. Robinhood, great earnings, but you'll see kind of chopped around, didn't do too much afterwards, and it's actually kind of selling off at this point. So again, our biggest questions for Apple: the margin headwinds from the Trump tariffs, all right? DOJ scrutiny over Google payments, and then the lagging AI innovation. We've talked about this already. You know, Apple's losing the AI race, and that's basically where all the money happens to be flooding into. And another thing is too, you know, did they figure out their supply chain? Are they truly moving everything over to India and trying to create over there? Or are they just gonna, you know, sit it out with what's going on in China and, you know, having to pay additional tariffs on everything? So on the surface, I will say it looks a little bit more bullish for Apple, but when you look under the unusual prints, at least for recent, we actually see quite a bit of puts being taken out. And the most recent unusual / big money print we see aiming for November, strike 180 put, 2.3 million spent on that. Okay, so this one I would say is a little bit more indeterminate in terms of what I could see. There are, if you do want to earnings play, we do see these 8-1 aiming for down below 210, aiming for down. Those are pretty small though. And then we do have some calls aiming for above 210 as well. So 8-1, those are very short term. You also see in stacks the red 0 DTE on the right gives you a bit of sentiment of what, they're expecting a move very quickly. This money that they've spent for 0 DTE and also this out of the money position. So you'll see gold, the gold metal is in the money. Those ones are a little bit safer in most cases, but the bronze metal, the out the money symbol, that emoji, when that's combined with the 0 days to expiration, the money they're spending is almost guaranteed to go to zero unless they happen to know something and it ends up going in their direction. So $4 per contract, $400 right there. They spent 170K for something like Apple. That's actually pretty small, so I want you to keep that in mind. But you do see a lot of these 0 days to expirations coming in right before earnings, so that's something to keep an eye out for. Amazon earnings, same thing today after close, upward channel, a rising wedge forming since the tariff lows. Big money leaning bullish on the name with earnings, and just today they did have 3.6 mil spent on this position for middle of next month. This rising wedge pattern generally tends to break down in a lot of cases, but again, earnings could be either direction. You'll see in the buys, where was it? 8. There we go. Right here, this third one, 815, 245, 3.6 mil spent. All right, out the money, big money, $3.60 or $360 each one of those positions. So keep in mind, we'll keep an eye out for it. We got 5 minutes till close. Again, are you guys looking to get into any of those positions? MicroStrategy, another very popular name. They do have a lot of new shares they issued. They've got 628,000 Bitcoin on their books. They've got a 9% dividend payout. Do they actually make money? Are they making money, or is it really just this Bitcoin play? I did have the chart drawn out from before saying we're headed up higher. It did retrace a little bit further than my initial drawing here because I was expecting this high over here to have a little bit more supply. But we could see, if you just shift this over a little bit, I do think we could be seeing this head higher in due time. Question is, how is their earning report going to reflect upon what's going on with them? 0 days to expiration calls, 0 days to expiration puts, aiming for above 410, down below 400. A lot of these could be hedges, so keep that in mind. All right. And then on the big money side, all we see are calls being taken out for this. Millions and millions of dollars being spent. A few of them being short term, taken out earlier in the week and earlier last week. These ones for 815, 390. These ones are in the money, so they're a little bit safer. But this guy's really not expecting this to drop below this 390 range, because otherwise this would turn into out the money, and this, the 2.8K that they're spending per contract is going to decrease in value significantly. So MicroStrategy, big money is saying we're probably going to see it head up further. We'll see how earnings plays out. Again, we've got a few more minutes till that. Then Coinbase, very similar. They've had some expansions, derivatives. They offer a JP Morgan partnership. Their float income is up quarter over quarter. Layer 2 adoption is accelerating, and they are now part of the S&P 500. So if you take a look at the chart, it's really shot up since then. We saw, a distribution, accumulation down below. You could have gotten in at it below 40 even back in 2023. And we've just seen it continue to leg up higher and higher and higher. Highs at 446 or so. So again, we're down toward 378. It is a pretty volatile name. If you take a look at, this is just, keep in mind when I show you guys these stacks, if you look at the check boxes up above, if nothing's checked, this is just everything. We've got the buys and the sells. We do see a few 0 days to expiration positions being taken. And then if I filter for the buys, you'll see the more recent positions tend to be purchases. We do have 1.89 mil in puts right here and 150K in puts right here as well. But you'll see the rest of the big money is actually aiming for calls. And these are also all aiming for 815. Again, shorter term, not a lot of time. If you understand options, options tend to decay the fastest in the last 2 weeks, even the fastest in the last week. So usually if you want safer positions, you look for at least a month out. But that's what we've gotten written up for you guys. I know there's Reddit and Riot. We'll keep an eye on those as well. But let's just jump into Trading View. And what I'll do is I'll set this up as multi-screen. First one we definitely want to take a look at is Apple on the minute. See what's happening there. And then on the other one, we'll pull up Amazon. If you guys are joining us here, let me know you're here. Comment stacks. We're gonna market close. This is in just about a minute. So let's see how that turns out. Also, any other previous positions? Did you get into Carvana, Microsoft, Meta from yesterday, Robinhood? Let me know what you guys were in and how that turned out for you guys. Again, we're here to give you guys the data. I'll let you guys make the decision of what exactly you want to get yourselves into. Remember, manage your risk. There's no such thing as a risk-free trade. So be careful with your portfolios. But we're here. I want to make sure we can help you guys make some money. Hopefully help you guys achieve that financial freedom that you're looking for. Well, Amazon, big candle up, but remember, first reaction isn't always everything. We'll see what ends up happening. Ooh. Is that? No? You see how that always happens. It shot up like crazy and then it came right back down. Amazon, is it reported just yet, or is this just manipulation? I'm pulling up Twitter to see what I can find. Nothing reported just yet. So I know I've got a couple of new traders that have joined Stacks recently, and I want to make sure I help answer those questions that you guys have. Got a question here that says, what's the benefit of buying puts? Okay, so calls here, we are expecting to see price move up. For puts, and again, for calls, if price does move up, that's where we're going to be making our money. For a put, it's really just the other direction. It's a little bit harder to grasp the concept of, because in this situation, yes, you would be making money off something that is losing. But one quick way to think about it is, for stocks, you can buy low and sell high. And then there's another way where it's called taking a short position, where you can sell high and then buy back low. All right, so it's almost like, let's say, I like to use iPhones as an example, or let's say, you've got your favorite Louis Vuitton bag or shoes. Let's just say I promised my friend that, I'm gonna purchase something from him later, okay? So I can sell, let's say I have the iPhone right now, and I'm going to sell it to, or I'm gonna borrow it from somebody else, borrow somebody else's iPhone, and I'm gonna sell it for money. Then later, if I know price is going to drop down lower, I can go and rebuy that same item at a lower price. And as a result, I can make the difference between that. So there's two ways to make money. You can buy low. If I buy something at a cheap price and go sell it at a higher price, I make that difference. Versus if I sell it at a high price and then I buy it back from somebody later and return it back to them, that's the other direction. That's the short position that you can take. Now, understand that with options, it's also doing that same thing, but in a little bit more of a complex contractual format. So for calls we are promising to buy something later on at a predetermined price. For puts, we're promising to sell at a later price at a predetermined price. So there's just two different mechanisms that you can use to make money in the markets, but understand that puts are a situation where you will end up making from the downward movement of price. Okay. The other question is, I know some of you guys have been asking, Chemo's still around? You'll notice he recently got married, so there was a little short period of time where he was pretty busy with stuff and wasn't as active. But one of the things I want to point out was we had a couple positions earlier in the year which got suppressed pretty heavily. And because he has a pretty large following of people, there is this theory that ultimately too much clamor around somebody online sometimes brings too much attention, because you have to remember, with the stock market world, it is a dog eat dog or a shark infested waters type of world, where if you let people know what you're doing too much, there oftentimes are going to be people that are going to take the other side of your trade, and if they have the money to push you around, they can take your liquidity. All right. And so Chemo's trading with hundreds of thousands of dollars at once, and there were a few positions that were a little bit more publicly talked about. Twitter, Instagram, just, I like to say, out in the void, but there's always people listening, and there's always people with computers and bots that have been designed to understand where people's money is put. And so as a result, there were a couple of these positions that were not only suppressed but also went in the wrong direction, even though on the technical side of things, and even though on what we have in our charts and what Stacks has to say. Sometimes with what happens with these trades is when the market sees a lot of liquidity, they will target that to try to take that money. So just understand that Chemo's still around. If you want to follow along with his trades, he will give you guys ideas of up and down, of what direction something is going to go in. It's more so going to be up to you to understand how options work, to determine what the best choices of options happen to be. A little bit later today, I'll pull up my Webull, and we will discuss how to find the best positions to get into, and understanding as well what constitutes a good position to get in. For example, today there was a Stacks AI Carvana trade that was aiming for, I believe, October, and I was watching the spread on that. The spread right at open, there's absolutely zero volume. Nobody was actually trading it, and so the price was extremely wonky. Even though Carvana went up basically like 20-something% today, the price and the spread between the buyers and sellers of that contract was actually quite big, which made it kind of inefficient to be selling into. So again, it is one of those situations where the more you understand as of anything, as of any industry, the more you understand and the more experience you have, the more and better equipped you are to make profits and to keep your profits as well. Amazon projects quarterly revenue above market estimates. Over here, Apple, nothing right away. Or really, not a big move just yet for either. So until we see it break up above at least today's highs or lows. Okay, so right now, yeah, Amazon's dropped below today's low, but it's still nowhere You know, in terms of it, this is basically that wedge I drew. We could see it break down below the wedge and head further down. But we'll have to see. And just like you guys saw, Robinhood yesterday popped up like crazy, made its way all the way back. Another one that I wanted to make sure you guys understand, STX, Seagate. Remember we had a very bullish thesis on it going into earnings. We saw it show up with a double beat, and then we saw price sell off. But today, a day later, we saw actually all of that fully recover, and then for it to head up further, head up higher. So, you know, that is the thing with earnings is, you know, sometimes the market is going to make some irrational decisions and push it in certain directions. But if the company itself has, you know, good fundamentals, makes good money, that money and the investors will eventually come back to it in due time. So we'll discuss all of that a little bit further. I'd say give us about 5 more minutes and we'll see the real movements for these. Let's also quickly peek over at, let's see, MicroStrategy and Coinbase. MicroStrategy's moving up a little bit. $10 billion for net income, EPS 32.60. We'll see in a moment. And then Coinbase is headed down lower right now. So, but still nothing in terms of an exact move just yet. Amazon, I mean, here down 2% after hours. That's nothing so far. So, oh, baby boy's crying. Okay, let's see what else. Reddit, RDDT. Reddit popped up higher. AI-driven ad strength. Expanded AI capabilities. Traction with smaller advertisers. You know, it is a fairly overvalued company at this point. Now PE ratio at 224. But again, that can still continue to be irrational for a little longer. Riot saw a little bit of a pop, nothing huge so far. Up 0.5% after hours. Cloudflare, no reaction so far. Roku's up. Roku's up about 6% after hours so far. Beat second quarter revenue estimates. Alright. Back to Apple, back to Amazon here. Still muted movements. You know, one possible result too as well is we might just see these chop around and see it take out both sides and stay flat. You know, so that's kind of what happened with Robinhood yesterday. Overnight, huge pop, looks great. You wake up and it's moved right back down to where it was. So yeah, AWS is a key driver of their profits. Reported 16.9 growth, 16.9% growth. Well, but yeah, not too big of a move so far. Apple up 0.67%, Amazon down 0.24%. So nothing so far. Let's peek back at MicroStrategy. Up 1.5%, but that's still very muted. It popped about what? 2.6. That's not a MicroStrategy type of move. Coinbase is starting to drop though. Coinbase is down 7, almost 8% now. Let me know too, guys. Am I missing something you guys wanted to see? We do have ExxonMobil and Chevron coming up tomorrow, so we'll see how oil fares. But yeah, Apple and I'll put Amazon back over here then. Yeah, that's a nothing burger for both of those companies at this point. Usually you want to give till about 15 minutes after the bell. Is usually a lot of these don't report till 15 minutes after the bell. It looks like a lot of these reports are technically out. Let me see what I can find on Twitter real quick. Yeah, Amazon beat EPS by 27%, beat revenue by 3%. No, but AWS technically came in soft at only 17.5%. That's crazy. 17.5% growth is considered a soft report. Apple, let's see. Apple earnings still haven't actually come out technically, I see. Yeah, nothing on Twitter so far. So we're still yet to see a full move or full result from that. Let's see what happens. It's should be reported pretty soon, but I don't think that's a good sign in most cases. It might not be a good sign. So if you guys are here watching, comment stacks for me. Tell me, what is it that you're looking at? Is there anything that you want me to pull up for you guys on the big screen? Let's check MicroStrategy. That's still nothing. Coinbase was already down. Still headed down. Reddit. Possibly higher. Riot. Came right back down to where it started at. And Roku. Kind of just bouncing around right now, but see if it breaks above or below these levels. What I just drew here is called the Fibonacci levels. So what you can do is you can find the fib retracements, and it's just the idea that these certain numbers are kind of natural resistance and support levels that are drawn according to when price moves in a direction. Apple. I'll move my Amazon over here. Oh, Amazon moving down a little further now. Probably just because it came in a little softer than was expected. But ultimately, you know, it's still a double beat. We could see something like Seagate where this comes back tomorrow during the day. Maybe just a little bit of a sell-off so far. But that rising wedge, you see how I had that drawn, starting to break down below it a little bit. $224, $223. Now down about 4.3%. Apparently Apple earnings have still not been released. I'm checking right now for what's on Twitter, and there's still no report out. Yeah, still no report out for Apple. Like I said, that's not exactly a good sign. You know, what's lagging with their report? Why is it not coming out right away? It's like having a big project deadline. Not a good thing if you're late on it. Amazon's starting to make a little bit of a pushback. We'll see. It needs to get back up to that 226 level. At least come back toward where prices chopped around a little bit. And you can kind of see, so I had this drawn, right? The rising wedge, the white lines. You can see how, right, this on the minute chart, price tested it, dropped back, tested the lower part of that rising wedge, dropped down below, tested below it, now it became resistance, tried to pop back up above it, and then went straight further down at this point. So again, it's got to come back to reclaim that level, at least get back into that wedge if you're expecting Amazon to go up. Apple, still nothing so far. Still no news on their earnings. Huh. Alright, we'll keep an eye on that. I'm expecting the moment earnings comes up, you're either going to see a giant candle up or a giant candle down. So, what's the hold up, Apple? So just like I said, so when you take Fibonacci levels, you draw them out from where the move started to the high of the move, and it will draw these levels that are going to act as resistance and support. A lot of time price can come back down very quickly to between the 0.382 and the 0.236. So it will lose, from that move, it'll lose about 38% of its move. And at the very, and then on the other side of it, you know, there's two golden spots that it likes to go to. So the first one is this first box right here, and the second one is this box right here. So you can see it dropped all the way back down, retraced almost 78%, chopped around in that area, tested the halfway mark, went all the way back up too, and now it came all the way back down. So where will Roku go? We'll see. It'll take some time, but that's kind of a bit of a weak move, but at least it's being bought up in this area down here. Yeah, Amazon is gonna, it's just gonna be a muted move. I think maybe tomorrow we'll see it stick around in this range, probably open up between what, 225 to 230. I don't think it's gonna make, I think the move's already happened here. So beat EPS by 26%, beat revenue by 3%. But remember, for a lot of these big names, there's a lot of analysts that have already looked at that. What is going on, Apple? Very likely it might not come out till 1:30 now. So I might have to wait a little bit longer to see what ends up happening with it. Comment for me, let me know, what is it that you guys were looking at? What did you get into, any positions? Did you have anything, you know, any calls, any puts that you took for earnings? What's going on with that? While we wait for these to play out, I'm gonna expect that Apple's gonna take a little bit longer. I know I made this call out yesterday. I personally was not completely aware that it was actually reporting earnings today, but PCG we saw yesterday a flood of these calls come in. Unusual, right? All aiming for upside. What did end up happening was there was a report about how the California wildfires is going to get some relief money, and some of these big utility companies were going to benefit from it. Then we had earnings that apparently were a little bit poor. So PCG here on the right side had poor earnings. So, I mean, down by 1%, revenue down 5%. And so we saw it push down in the morning, but you saw it also get bought up extremely quickly, okay? So that's something to keep in mind for. Misses profit estimates. And at the end of the day, you know, what I want to use and what I usually use as my leading indicator is just what's going on with stacks. So if you take a look at stacks yesterday, and then this is today, the only thing that happened with PCG today was there's some more buying. If you want a very cheap test out here, you could go for 919, 18 calls. They're only 10 cents each, right? So 10 bucks, you buy 10 of these, that's $100. You buy 100 of these, that's $1,000. But if this makes a move, this is one of those types of moves where if it does move up and move up quickly, we could that kind of a position, if it is able to get to 18 or break above 18, could be quite a large returner. But again, the risk is there. You have to understand that's a 33% move from where it's at. But open interest is at 188,000 right now, and they just bought 22K of that position. So PCG, that's something I'm watching. I am in these ones, the January 2026 16 calls. They spent 400K on that, and I am in, I think, for 85 cents each. So let's go back to stacks, or go back to trading view and see what we see in terms of Apple. Still hasn't made its move yet. Amazon still just chopping around underneath where I drew that resistance at from before. So 226.50 was where the resistance at. It's just bouncing around underneath it right now. Yeah, I mean, earnings, yeah, it looks like they moved it to 130. Yeah, it looks like they're behind on things, or again, I feel like it was supposed to report earlier. All right, so I guess we will see the report in about 3 minutes. Curious as well. Comment for me where you guys are located. I'm over here in San Diego, California. Love to know where my viewers are. I know we've got some international people. I know there's a lot of California people here as well. Comment for me where you guys are from as we wait for Apple, which, by the way, is a Cupertino headquartered company. I'm actually from Cupertino. Grew up in the Bay Area, Sunnyvale. And everybody and their uncle works at Apple. Yeah, let me know. Where are you guys from? Come on, 2 more minutes, Apple. Where your report at? One more minute, Apple. Where is your report? Alright, we'll just put Apple completely on the big. I expect to see a candle. What direction? Up. Is that right? Is it up or is that the fake out? Apple earnings. Let's see what I can find. EPS $1.57, which beats their estimate of $1.43. Third quarter revenue $94 billion. Estimate was 89.3 mil, so they beat. iPhone revenue beat by 4 billion, 44.58 billion versus 40.06 billion. Greater China revenue beat by just a little bit, 15.37 billion. Estimate was 15.19. So double beat, 10% on EPS, 5% on revenue. EPS is down 5% quarter over quarter, and revenue is down 1% quarter over quarter. Ooh, a big drop coming here, right? Like I said, guys, that first move is not always going to stick. Is it just now taking out some liquidity below, trying to take out some cheaper shares, or is this a sell-off at the top and coming back down? You got to let it play out. That's the hard part about earnings. You'll never know till the next day, too. Somebody said Microsoft is booming. Let's peek over at that. Microsoft going higher, huh? Yeah, Microsoft. Oh, remember, Microsoft sold off. It was Meta that held up stronger throughout the day. Right, Meta held up stronger throughout the day. Microsoft, I mean, yeah, it's headed up a little bit, but that's still pretty small compared to the big picture so far. Amazon back at 227. So Amazon's move, what, 3% down is nothing for an earnings report. So Amazon was very muted. Apple, are we going to see it push up higher? We'll watch it for a little bit longer, but, you know, we'll finally get the... We'll see the full move tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit for it to play out. %1.8%. Someone said First Solar, FSLR. First Solar, 19% beat, up 4%. I think Apple might be one of those muted moves, just like Amazon. I think the big moves for this week have already happened. We saw Microsoft and Meta, even Carvana. I think Reddit might be the big winner for today's. Yep. Reddit up 15%. Yeah, Apple just doing nothing right now. It's up 1% from where it closed. This high, this little wick up top, it went up 3.5%. So that's still not that much, especially for something like earnings. Another thing to consider too, today is the end of July. We will have our Stacks AI backtesting. You got to give me a little bit, and I'll try to get that done as soon as possible. But something that you'll notice at either the end of months, especially at the end of quarters, is you can see how a lot of funds and institutions will end up selling off their losing positions and rebuying back in. And so, if you have to put yourself in the position of a fund manager, is you want to make sure you can report positive things to the people that you're serving. And so oftentimes there will be situations where they'll sell off some of their losers, and then reallocate that money to positions so that they can continue to show positive reports. So there are times at the end of months and at the end of quarters where you'll see bigger moves in certain directions. And it just so happens that today it coincides with some of these earnings that we're seeing. But tomorrow is August the 1st, which means that we're going to have a fresh new month. I do believe as well seasonality, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Seasonality in terms of the stock market, August tends to be one of the poorer months where a lot more selling off happens. There is the belief that, a lot of traders trade the beginning, first half of the year, sell in May, sell across, and, do what they need to do, get ready for their summer, and then they kind of chill a little bit more for the rest of the year. So really though, Apple took a little longer for us to see their results today, but not very much happened. 2% move. That's nothing, guys. Hoping that these live streams have been useful for you. Max will be joining us for the next upcoming ones. We got to peek over real quick. Let me pull this up. We got some more earnings coming up next week. Let me pull this screenshot up. I'll just pull up on Discord. Okay. What's coming up next week? We have Monday. Nothing that really sticks out on Monday. Tuesday, we got AMD. Got Snapchat, Upstart, Pfizer, Lucid. Wednesday, we got AppLovin, Disney, Duolingo, Jack in the Box, Oxy. We got Uber. Thursday, we have ConocoPhillips, Eli Lilly, Atlassian, T2, Block. And then Friday, Wendy's, I guess, but that's it. So most of it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Max and I will be putting together as much of that as we can this weekend. I'll keep in mind tomorrow as well. We got Chevron and we have ExxonMobil reporting tomorrow. But next week probably we'll do a live stream. I'll talk to Max, see if we either do one on Monday to get ready for the week. Depends on when AMD reports. If AMD's before open, then we'll probably have to do something Monday. Get you guys ready for the week. We'll continue on with additional live streams to help you guys out. If there's anything in particular you want to see, let us know. But very likely we'll wait for tomorrow. We'll see what positions they take tomorrow, especially on stacks, to get ready for the weekend. But yeah, we've got another big week. Not nearly as big as what we had this week, but we still got some pretty big names to consider. And that doesn't wrap up earnings season. We still got Cisco coming up the week after, that Wednesday. And then we'll have a couple of additional ones here and there that we'll have to keep an eye out for. But the bulk of the important names are the ones that have reported so far. Yeah, Apple. I was expecting more of a move, to be honest. I was expecting at least a 4 to 5% move up or down in either direction. Amazon back up above where I had that resistance line drawn. Now we got to see if it can break back above where that wedge and get back into that wedge. Might just see a little bit of a wick down and back up, because ultimately earnings were decent. They weren't poor. Okay. Same with Amazon. Amazon was actually pretty decent as well. But I will have Max and I are going to do a little bit more of a deep dive once we can see, is there anything that was, written in between the lines, a little bit more hidden that we need to consider. Maybe there are some more headwinds that are in the report that we haven't quite seen. Yeah. Hope that was useful for you guys. This is eRoo, Eric here with Stacks and Investor Central Club. If you guys have anything else, please leave us a comment, hit that like button. If you are looking to use I do believe today should be the last day to use our yearly subscription discount. So if you want to use July 2025, you can get 25% off your annual subscription for Stacks. We also have a couple of, big announcements coming. You guys have already seen we've got WaveX coming very soon, but we do have some other things in our pipeline that will be announced in due time. So keep an eye out for that. But I would definitely say get your subscription of Stacks soon, because as we get newer and better things to add to our platform, you're gonna wish you had gotten in earlier on. Okay, last day to use this, July 2025. We will be back to it very, very soon. If you're in our Discord, we'll continue the conversation there. But hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next live stream.